30B. 30B, or the middle lines, 5 lines down. Turn our bottom. Kashi Yitzhahara. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? That's what I heard from the scholar.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
We'll fill this quiver.
Kashi Yitzhahara, the evil inclination is bad. Shafilu Yitzhar, even the Creator God, Kari Ra, he called him evil. Shenemar, as the verse states, Ki Yitzhar, because the inclination, Lev Adam Ra Mina Urav, is wicked from his youth. See that God calls the Yitzhar evil. Amar Yitzhak, Yitzhar Shal Adam is Chana Shal V'chol Yom. The evil inclination of man seeks new ways to trick him every day. Shenemar Rak Kol Hayom. This is when the people started sinning after the creation of man, which what later brought to the floods. It said, God said about the people, Rak Kol Hayom. The only thing they seek is new avenues to pursue wickedness. Person's Yitzhahara gets stronger every day. Desires to kill him. Shenemar Tzeifer Rasha, the wicked one, meaning the evil inclination. He seeks out tzaddik, the righteous, and seeks his death. And if God does not help him, then man cannot withstand the advances of the evil inclination. Shenemar, as the verse states, God won't abandon him, meaning that it requires God's assistance to be victorious against the advances of the Yitzhahara. Turn to Rabbi Shmuel. The students of Rabbi Shmuel would quote from him, B'ni, my son, if this manuval is describe manuval in English, repulsive one.
Repulsive one engages you.
Repulsive one. If the repulsive one, meaning the evil inclination, engages you, bring him into the study hall. If he's hard as a rock, will be softened. If he's iron, mispites it, he'll start cracking. Shenemar, as the verse states, my word, the Torah, is like a fire. And like iron, it will melt rocks. It will shatter rocks. If he was like a stone, he would shrink, he would be rubbed off, dissolve, turn to dust. We see the Torah is compared to water, and water is avonim sachaku mayim. Water is able to rub off on stones and carve them out. Okay, la'asiyah isha, a man is obligated to marry his sons. Minalan, how do we know? The siv k'chunashim, marry a woman, v'halidu banim ubanais, and beget sons and daughters. K'chulev nechem nashim v'esbenesechem tenula anashim. Take for your sons wives, and give your daughters to be other men's wives. Bishlam b'nei biyadei. Okay, for him to choose a spouse for his son is sort of within his hands. How exactly can he marry off his daughter? Somebody has to choose them. So the Gemara says, this is what he means to say. A person should make his daughters very attractive to be marriage partners, and that's how he'll make sure his daughters get married. Yeah, none of this stuff is modern. It's been like this for thousands of years. The lamda on this, the man is obligated to teach his son a profession. Minalan, what's the source? Amar Chiskid, Amar Kra, the verse states, Re'ei Chaim im Isha Asher Ahavta. Chaim here, life, means sustenance. So, see life with the woman that you chose, the woman that you've chosen. Now, the woman here either means im isha mamish, if it means an actual woman. So just like a man is obligated to marry off his son to a woman, he's also obligated to give him life, chayim, which is sustenance, teach him a job. In Torah, if the woman here in question is an allegory to Torah, just like he's obligated to teach him how to study Torah, he's also obligated to teach him a profession. And some say also he has to teach him how to swim. By time it's necessary to live. If he's shipwrecked or something, he'll have a chance at survival. Rabbi Yehudah says, I'm sorry, whoever does not teach his son a profession teaches him how to steal. So the Gemara says, is he actually teaching him how to steal? It says if he's teaching him how to steal. What's the difference of opinions? Okay, so rabbis also say you have to teach him a job, you have to teach him a profession. Yehudah says you have to teach him a profession, otherwise you teach him how to steal. What's the difference of opinion? So the Gemara says the Agmar Iska, he teaches him instead. Okay, so an umnis is a job or a career, whereas an Iska is a business, right? Specifically, business engaged in trade and commerce. So according to the Rabbanon, an Iska is sufficient. If you teach him how to do business, how to trade, and that's fine. That will be an income. Yehudah says he needs to learn a profession as well, because occasionally he might not have enough money to engage in business. Business requires a certain minimum amount of capital. If he doesn't have that, he won't be able to engage in business. So therefore, Yehudah says, and even when you have to teach him a way to make money, even when he doesn't have any capital. Kol mitzvahs ha'av al haben. Okay, so the Mishnah first talks about mitzvahs that the father is commanded for the son. Now we talk about there are mitzvahs ha'av al haben, mitzvahs of the father on the son. It's not clear what that's referring to. What is it referring to? My kol mitzvahs ha'av al haben. What does that mean? If it means all the things the father is obligated to perform for the son, and in that case, women, the second half of the Mishnah says women are also obligated. But we saw the opposite. Father is obligated to redeem his son and to perform circumcision on his son. Of it in Imaloi, the father, yes, but the mother is not obligated. Rabbi Yehudah says no. This is what we mean. Any commandments on the father that the son is obligated to perform for the father. Which mitzvah are we talking about here? Honoring your father and mother. It's not just covet, it's also myra, it's also fear. And this really takes us into a new discussion, which is subject of today and tomorrow. The specifics of the halachas of kibbud av v'em are all appear in Gemara in these two passages. Not all, but the vast majority of the kibbud av v'em, which is a section of Shulchan Aruch, Code of Jewish Law, it comes right out of these Gemaras here. Okay, Tnina lahad Tana Rabbanon. The Mishnah is saying this, that the rabbis taught ish. It says that this is a ish of Tiro. Yeah, this is the obligation of a man to fear his parents. Ish, a man, ainly ish, specifically a man. Ishamina, and how do we know a woman as well? Because when it says you should fear them, plural, so multiple people should be in fear. What does that mean? That's two people. Must be the son and the daughter. Why does the Torah specifically talk about a man? So ish Isha ain't a man often has much more flexibility to honor his parents than a woman. The reason for that is if a woman's married, she's obligated to her husband first over her parents. So she isn't always capable of honoring her parents. And that's what the Torah used an example of a man. Amar of Idi Bar Oven, Amar Rav Idi says in the name of Rav, Niskarsha, if his daughter got divorced, then Shneim Shavin, then they're both equal. The son and the daughter are exactly the same. There's no real difference between a son and a daughter in terms of kibbud av v'em, unless the daughter is married. Tana Rabbanon. It says, honor your father and mother. Honor God from your money. The Torah equates honoring your father and mother to honoring God. Similarly, Nemar ish aviv ish imay v'aviv tiro. It says a person should fear his mother and his father. The Nemras Hashem Elokecha tiro. You should fear God for Isitavin and should serve Him. Hishva kosav moiras av ve'aim l'moiras hamakom. A person should fear his. The Torah equates fearing parents to fearing God. Similarly, somebody who curses. The typical euphemism here is somebody who blesses. So we would say he blessed, even though we don't mean blessing here. We mean the opposite of that. It says someone who blesses his parents should die. Someone who blesses God should also his sin should be carried, meaning it's a difficult burden to carry. The Torah equates the blessing of a father and mother to the blessing of God. There's also a severe penalty for a person to injure or hit his parents. And obviously that is not possible with God unless you build a Tower of Babel. And even then it doesn't really work. You can only pretend. Okay. So therefore you can't really equate them. This makes sense that they should all be equated. Because the three of them, parents and God, are partners in man's creation. Tana Rabban, the rabbis taught, there are three partners in a person. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, V'aviv, and his father, V'imay, and his mother. And by the way, the Gemara in Nida says the white parts of a person come from the father, the red parts from the mother, and the spirit and the senses come from God. The fact that the person has his senses register and he has a spirit to him, that's from God. Okay. The person honors his mother and his father. So God says, I rest with them. I'm a partner together with them, and it's as if you've honored me. Tanya, we learned Rabbi Omer, Go Yidur Lefnei Misha Omer V'Hoya Alam Shepen Mechabed Es Imay Yoser Me'aviv. The typical scenario is for a son to honor his mother more, because it's easier for one to convince his mother, so it's easier for him to get what he wants from his mother, and therefore it's easier for him to honor her. Therefore, God says to honor a father first before the mother. And also the God is aware. A man is afraid of his father more than his mother. Because it teaches him Torah, it can get tough on him. So therefore, we see God focuses on fearing a mother before a father. Right? It says Ish imay v'aviv tiro. The mother comes first, then the father. Tani Tani Kamedu of Nachman. The Tana said in front of Nachman, is Mancha Adam Mitzaris Avivis Imay, a time where a person causes pain to his father or mother. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu Yafa Asisi Shaladarti Benem. God said, "It's good. I do not dwell among them. They would have caused me pain." So this is sort of the inverse of the previous Gemara. The previous Gemara is if you honor your father and mother, it's as if you're honoring God. If you cause pain, so you sort of cause God to leave because God doesn't want to be in pain. Okay, 1 second here. Rav Yitzchak says, somebody who commits a sin in secret pushes away God's presence. Shenemar, Hashem, so says God, Hashemayim Kesim, my throne is in the heavens, the Oretz Hadoim Ragli, and the land is the place of my feet. Now, if a person commits a sin in secrecy, so he pushes away God's feet, as it were, God's presence. Amr Rishum Levi says, also Adam Shehalach Arba Ames became a skufa. A man is not allowed to walk more than 4 cubits with an upright posture, really looking up. Shnemar, as the verse states, the entire world is filled with God's honor, and therefore a person should not be arrogant in the face of God. Person walking down the street with an arrogant look, that is forbidden. Rav Huna bar Yehoshua, Rav Huna the son of Rabbi Yehoshua, lemaski arba amas begili harosh. He would not walk more than 4 cubits with an uncovered head. Amar, he says, Shechina lemalot meroshim. God's presence is on top of my head, and therefore it's important for a person to act with humility in the presence of God. One of the Gemaras that indicate to us is why we wear this black thing in our head we call yarmulke. Okay, there's a couple of other Gemaras. So past, so other Gemara and Kiddushin, there's a few other Gemaras, but this is one of them. Okay, it's an interesting story. Shaul ben Almona Achas. So there was the son of a widow, right? Clearly his father died. So he asked Rabbi Eliezer the following question. Remember, he doesn't have a father. And this is the question. Abba Omer Ashkini Mayim, the Ima Meres Ashkini Mayim. My father and my mother both asked me for a cup of water. Ezim and Kaidim, who comes first? Amar Leis, Rabbi Eliezer says to him, Hanach Kveidimecha v'asei Kveidavicha. Drop your mother's requests, honor your father, because your mother and you are both obligated to honor your father. Her, meaning the woman is obligated to honor her husband as a spouse. So he came in front of Rabbi Yehoshua and he asked him the same question. This is what he says to him. This is what Rabbi Eliezer said to me. Nisgarsha, what happens if they get divorced? What's the story? So Amar Lei, so Rabbi Yehoshua recognized, he says, it's clear that you've suffered a lot in your life, and it looks to me that you're the son of a widow, i.e., you don't have a father. So your question is entirely theoretical. So he says to him, pour water into one bowl, give it to them together, and have them chirp like birds, sort of fight over it. He basically wasn't interested in answering the question, because he said, it's not exactly relevant to you. Darash Ula Rabba Apiska de Benesia. Ula Rabba spoke on the doorstep of the Nasi's house, the exilarch's house. Ma'il Siv, this the verse states, Yiducha Hashem Kol Malchi Eretz. They will praise God, all the kings of the lands. Kishamu Imreficha, because they heard the words of God. So the Gemara says, Ma'imar Picha and Emmer El Imreficha. It's not the one second. Let me probably go on for a second. Okay. The question here is, why do they use a plural terminology, Imrei Ficha, as opposed to Ma'imar Ficha, even a single statement of God? So the Gemara explains, when God gave the 10 Commandments, so everyone in the world heard God say, Anochi, I am your God, you shouldn't have any other gods besides me. So the nations of the world said, it's a God that wants to be honored, which is not surprising. But once God says one of the commandments are so then they saw God as not just out for his own honor, he's out, the honor of appearance is also important. Then they admitted that God is worthy of praise even for the initial statements, that God demands honor of himself. It's interesting. Not all religions have the commandment to honor parents. Some of the Eastern religions do not have this. They honor everything old. They don't have this unique idea of honoring parents, which over here, as you can see in this Gemara, is quite significant. Rava says, the first of your words are true. So the Gemara says, Rosh Dvarach of life served. The nations exclaimed that the first commandments of God are true. And said, what about all of them? From the fact that God is concerned with the honor of parents, that indicates to us that the honor of God, which really stems from the same of it stems from the same place. It's to honor where you came, where you come from. So in that it's apparent that the first commandments also, it's not just that God is demanding his honor, but it's that it is important for man to understand where he came from. They asked a question from Rav Ula. Ad heichon kibud av ve'em. How far does kibud av ve'em go? So we have an interesting 3 stories here of a non-Jewish person. Amar lahem, he says to them, it's not clear if this is actually an idol worshiper or just the reason why the word Ovik Chavim appears often in the Talmud is not because it's referring specifically to an idol worshiper, it's because it was censored. And originally the Gersa was Goyim, non-Jews, not idol worshippers. I'm not sure that the reference is specific to idol worshippers. Anyway, that's just a side note. Ashkelon, in the city of Ashkelon, V'Dama ben Asina Shema, his name was Dama ben Asina. Pamachas, there was once a scenario, a story. Bikshu Rachamim Pragmatia B'Shishim Riba Schar. The rabbis wanted to buy merchandise from him for 60,000 coins, and the 60,000 in profits. So it's enormous. Sorry, 600,000. 600,000 in profits. The key was underneath his father's bed. His father was sleeping, and he refused to wake his father up. Amar Yehudah, Amar Shmuel. Yehudah says the name of Shmuel. Shalo es Rabbi Eliezer. He asked Rabbi Eliezer, "Ad heichon kibud av ve'em? How far is the mitzvah of kibud av ve'em?" Amar lahem tzu'uru ma, but tzu'uru go examine ma oisa avik chavim echad la'avim she'ba'ashkelon. With what one non-Jew, how one non-Jew honored his father in Ashkelon. V'dam ben Asina. Shema, his name was Dam ben Asina. One time, bikshu mimenu chachamim avonim la'ephod. The rabbis wanted to purchase stones for the ephod, for the vestments of the Kohen Gadol. The Shishim Riba Schar for 600,000 worth of gold profit. Rav Kahana Masni, Rav Kahana says B'Shmonim Riba was 800,000. The key was placed underneath his father's bed, and his father was sleeping. And he would not wake him up. The next year, God repaid him that a red heifer was born into his flock. By the way, I just want to point out one thing here, which seems to be relatively obvious. Some of the other commentators pointed out, which is, don't you think that his father probably would have rather been woken up and earned the $600,000 in profits?
Yeah, right.
Why wouldn't he wake him up? His father probably did want to be woken up. And one of the responses that the commentators gave is that his father wasn't normal. His father was, let's say, psychotically deranged or something like that. What they call schizophrenia, something like that. He was mentally unstable. And because of that, his father would not want to have been woken up. His father didn't really understand what money was about. And therefore, it was appropriate for him to lose the deal as opposed to waking up his father, because his father would not understand the value of the deal. Okay, anyway, so he has this red heifer. So the rabbis want to go buy it because they have the ashes of the red heifer, which is used to purify people that are impure. So the rabbis came to him to buy it. He says to them, if I asked you for all the money in the world that you have, you give it to me. The only thing I'll ask you for is the amount of money that I lost for the previous deals. Rav Chanina says, if a non-Jew who is not commanded on honoring his parents serves his parents this way, someone who's obligated is certainly obligated to go to a further extent to honor his parents. In other words, the commandment is more important when it's performed by he who is commanded. And this is in line with Rav Chanina's own statement. It's better to be obligated and serve than to be not obligated and volunteer. Rav Yosef was blind. And he says, initially I said, whoever tells me the halacha is like Rabbi Yehudah. What did Rabbi Yehudah say? The Amar Suma Patram and mitzvahs. That someone who's blind is exempt from all mitzvahs. So Rav Yosef is blind. He says anyone who says the halacha is like Rabbi Yehudah, that a blind person's potter is exempt. So I'll make him a party. Because I'm not commanded to do the mitzvahs, and I do them anyway. However, now that I heard the statement of Rav Chanina that it's better to be commanded and perform than not to be commanded and volunteer. So Adarabah, to the contrary, whoever tells me that halacha does not follow Rav Yehudah, and therefore I'm obligated to do mitzvahs, then I'll make them a party. He also Rav Dimi says, there was once a time this non-Jew, Dam ben Asina, he was wearing a gold embroidered silk cloak. There we are. And he was sitting amongst the elders of Rome. And his mother came, and obviously his mother, if you think his father was deranged, his mother seemed to be a bit unhinged also. The karosai at Mimenu, she ripped, she's a very expensive cloak, she ripped it. The tafkei al roisha, she waxed him on the head, probably on the face. It's more embarrassing. The yorkelei b'fanav, and she spits at him. The loy hechlima, and he did not embarrass his mother. He sort of held, he refrained from responding. Okay. So now the next Gemara, our version of Talmud brings this as a theoretical proposition. Rashi explains that this is actually a story that happened, and that's how it's brought in Yerushalmi. So I'll explain it the way Rashi explains. Tani Avimi Breder Bavu. You'll see our Talmud is not very clear on the story. Yerushalmi goes into more detail. Tani Avimi Breder Bavu. Avimi, the son of Bavu, says, Yesh Michael of Pisyani v'tardim in Olam. There was a guy who serves his father very expensive foods. I don't know, I guess
a very fat bird, similar to what would sell in the desert or something.
Yeah, Rashi says min slav shir midbar, type of very expensive bird, a Cornish hen, basically.
Yeah,
whatever. Okay, so he gives him this fancy food. What happened? What was the story? The story was his dad asked him, like, how did you afford it? So part of my language, he says to his dad, just shut up and eat. Or the equivalent of that, and maybe more vulgar term. Okay, and so despite the fact that he worked really hard to serve his father the most expensive foods, the tardim in olam, he gets penalized for acting that way. God is not happy with his response. He treats his father like he's worthless and useless. It's possible for a person to have his father work the millstone, which is an extremely difficult work, and he brings him into that act of convincing his father to work a mill, extremely difficult labor, could bring him to the world to come. And 1 second. Yeah, basically what happened was, according to the story, the father was elderly and drafted to the military. Probably more like a national service than a military draft, although the draft of Talmudic times wasn't necessarily a military draft, it was a service draft. Some people were selected for military service, some were selected for national service. And he didn't want his father to have to go. His father was old and frail, but he was the one who operated the millstone. So he told his father, you operate the millstone, and I'll take the service off of you, before the days of photo ID. So they didn't know who his father was. I'll say I'm you, and I'll save you the service. So that's a person made his father work a very difficult labor, but because of that, he merits the world to come. Okay, the point of the story basically is it's not about what, but it's also very much about how. How it's not about what you honor your father with, but it's how you honor him. Okay, what time is 6:30?
6:30.
6:30.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the Gemara talks about a couple of examples of exemplary kibbud avim, honoring appearance. Amar Bavu. Bavu says, "Kigoin Avimi Brait." So Bavu has a son Avimi, who has 5 sons. Kaya mitzvahs kibbud. He knows how to honor his father. Chamisha b'ni samchi havlil Avimi. So the grandfather is Avu, the son is Avimi. Avimi has 5 sons, not just sons. These are all smuchim. Meaning, you're talking about these are exemplary rabbis. So the father of 5 exemplary rabbis has, his father. He knows how. So this father, he knows how to do the mitzvah of kibbut of aim. So he has 5. So this grandfather sees five grandchildren that are major scholars. Basically, Avimi, the father of the 5 great scholars, whenever his father would knock on the door, he would run to the door. While he was running to the door, he would say, "I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming." So his father shouldn't think that he forgot about him. Yom Echad, one time, Rabbi Vu asked him for a drink. By the time he brought him the drink, Nimnam, he felt Rabbi Vu, the grandfather, fell asleep. He sort of waited on him with holding the glass of water until he woke up. Okay, Istayim, as a reward for this, he merited inspiration. V'darash Avimi Mizmor La'asaf, and Avimi explained the verse of Mizmor La'asaf. There's 2 versions in Rashi here. One version in Rashi is that he explained the entire verse. The other version of Rashi is that he explained this specific verse. It's probably worth seeing the article footnotes, but we don't have time for it. Very interesting what he merited to learn. Amrulay Rav Yaakov Baravu. I don't know the article reads down, but I presume they have to because Rashi it's extensively discussed in Rashi.
Talks about Psalm 79.
Yeah. Okay. Amrulay Rav Yaakov Baravu al Abaya. So Rav Yaakov Baravu says to Abaya, "Kigoyin no, look at me. The Ada Asina mi bei Rav Abba Madad lekisa." He says, "What do? I come home from the study hall. My father, Abba Madliki, so my father pours me a cup of water. And my mother serves me. What should I do? In other words, my parents honor me because they're very happy that I'm studying Torah. So they choose to honor me. Now that they're honoring me, what do? He says to me, you can accept it from your mother. You shouldn't accept it from your father. Because it's not like your father is an ignoramus. He knows how to learn too. He's also a scholar. And therefore it can cause him pain, and therefore don't accept from your father, but accept it from your mother. Reb Tarfon had his mother. The kol emes to have a boyas lamesik leporia gochan v'solakla. He would bend over and he would act as the stool for his mother to climb into his bed. Talking about a great, great scholar, and he would sort of humble himself. His mother would step on his back in order to climb onto the bed. The kol emes to have a noches nachnas iluya. Whenever she would walk, he would put his hand or his feet underneath her, so he would help her walk. Also, at some point she went to the study hall to tell all the scholars how her son is willing to humble himself to serve her. Amrulay, so the scholar said to her, he still hasn't even fulfilled half the obligation. If you would have taken his wallet with all his money before the days of credit cards and thrown it into the ocean, would he restrain himself from responding? The implication here was no, and obviously that's another level, a higher level of kibbut of aim. Rabbi Yosef Kiavashama kol karad ime. When Rabbi Yosef would hear the steps of his mother, he said, "Eiko mikam shechina." I'm going to get up in front of the shechina that's coming, God's presence, to Asya. Rav Yechon says, "Asher mi shaloi chaman." Rav Yechon says, "This is Rav Yechon was an orphan." Okay, we'll explain in a moment. But Rav Yechon says, because the mitzvah of kibbut of aim is so difficult, blessed is the one who doesn't have parents, because it's impossible to fulfill it correctly. Oh. The Gemara says, Rav Yechon ki evrasa imay meis aviv. His father died shortly after he was conceived. Yildasai meisei imay. His mother died in childbirth. So Rav Yechon had no parents, and he said, "Blessed is the one who doesn't have parents." Similarly, Abaya also had no mother or father. So the Gemara asks, "Any famously we know of Amar Abaya Amarli Aim." Abaya is always quoting from his mother, and most of the time it's remedies. So the Gemara says, "Hahi mirabanisa havoi." It was his wet nurse that told him these remedies.
No.
Rav Asi Havle Ahi Ima's Kana. Rav Asi had an elderly mother. Amrlei beina tachshitin. So she had, it's interesting. It seems here that she might have had some state of dementia here. So initially she wanted jewelry. You'll see why she wanted jewelry in a minute. So Avadlas, he gave her jewelry. She says, Beina Gavra. She says, I want to get married. Again, she's elderly. So he says, okay, I'm going to go look for a suitable partner for you. So then he says to him, she says to him, Beina Gavra Deshaber Kavasach. I want a man as attractive as you. So obviously that's sort of unfulfillable, an elderly woman. Shafkav Ozla Arad Yisrael. So he left her and he went up to Israel. He heard that she was chasing him down. She was coming after him. Also, he went to Rav Yechon. He says, can I go out of Israel to greet her? So Rav Yechon says it's prohibited. So he says, Likras ima ma'u, can I go out to greet my mother? He says, I don't know the answer. Itrach, wait a few minutes and I'll answer you. Itrach Porta. Rav Yechon came back and he says to him, if you want to leave to go greet her, you're permitted, and God should bring you back in peace. So he went back to Rabbi Lazar, and he wanted to know, he wanted to know if Rabbi Yechon was upset at him for saying, can he leave Israel? So he says to him, what did Rabbi Yechon tell you? So he says to him, Rabbi Yechon says, he says to me, he responded to me, God should bring you back in peace. So Rabbi Lazar says, don't worry, he wasn't mad. He would not have given you a blessing. Okay, so he left Israel to go greet his mother. On the way out of Israel, he finds out he hears that it's her casket that's coming. She died. He says, "Iyadi loy nafki." Had I known, I would not have left Israel to go greet her, since she is no longer amongst the living. Let's see start the next Gemara. Person is obligated to honor his parents while he's alive, and after his parents have passed on. B'chayev keitzad. How does one honor his parents while they're alive? Hanishmer b'dvar oviv l'makom. So let's say a person goes to the country club his father started, right? He shouldn't say shachuni b'shvalatzim. He shouldn't say approve my application because I'm wealthy or for whatever other reason that relates personally to me, or maharuni b'shvalatzmai, or make it quick, accelerate it because of me. Petruni b'shvalatzmai, escort me because of my own honor. Elakulu b'shvalaba, he should say because of my father. Should accord. Now, if they don't know who his father is, so then it's not really helpful to mention his father's name. But if they do, a person should be mentioning that he is his father's son. That after he dies, how do you honor your father? A person should not say this is a person's quoting his father. He shouldn't say this is what my father said. Ella, what should he say? He should say Kach Amar Abba Mari. To say the father I fear said such and such. Hareini kaparas mashkavai, I am the atonement of his death. Behind Emili, and this is true, only toich shnei masur chaydish for the first 12 months. Mikan ve'elach, afterwards Amar zachroina levracha. One should say that his memory should be blessed. L'chaye ha'olam haba. For the memory should be blessed for the world to come. Okay.
Eshkoach.
Stop there. Okay. Have a great day.